These videos are, for the next little while, are going to be divided into two parts. One is keeping up with where I am today, and then we'll get on to the history of where I came from. So we'll about halfway through the video, if you want to scan ahead, if you're just after the information on buying the boat, is where the survey video starts from January. It is August, and just the 1st of August. I've been here in the boatyard now for 2 months and working through the project. It took me the better part of a month to get the hull opened up. And as you'll see in the survey, there were issues with the hull, and as a result of those I had to strip the gel coat and some of the damaged areas out. And then here in about a week or so I'll start putting that back together. It's been out and drying for a month. Projects that I'm looking at right now, of course, getting the materials for the hull. The cutlass bearing has got issues and I need to remove it, and it looks like it's been put in a very custom manner that it's not going to come out the way it should. I'm not sure what I'm going to have to do to repair that. I'm also working on the electrical system. I have only a small 100-watt electrical panel charging a couple of car batteries, and one of them came with the boat and it's pretty old. And I'm beefing that up so that I have more than enough electrical power in the boat. The new electrical panels are back there by the fence. There's just shy of 2,000 watts worth, and I'm going to be putting lithium batteries in as soon as I can get them, but I can't get them here in Panama for any close to an affordable price. So I'm going to sail to the U.S. once I get the bottom put together to buy the lithium. Right now, I bought some used lead-acid solar batteries. These are 410 amp hours each at 6 volts. So in a 12-volt configuration, that's about 800 amp hours of batteries. I'm going to eventually wind up with them in 24-volt configuration, but the energy stored will be the same. Also, the refrigerator in the boat was broken, and I think I've got some video on that, which there'll be a whole segment on. So today I'm winding a new condenser coil for the back of the refrigerator. Then that'll be just again a provisional fix. I'll probably put a keel cooler on it later on with a valve so that I can switch between the two, so that I've still got the air cooled section for when I'm on the hard. And the keel cooler will probably be DIY. I probably won't buy one, and I'll have to figure out a way to install it underwater, because I'm not going to haul it out for that. Although I might put it on before I splash this trip, but I've only got about a month left in Panama before they kick me out, and I want the boat finished and in the water when I leave. So there's a lot to do. I have to leave the country before September 10th. By the time I get to the end of August, the remainder of my days, unless I'm really close, will be spent preparing the boat for storage if I can't get it in the water. So anyway, I've got these 3 projects that I'm working on today. I want to get these batteries. They're 54 kilograms each, which is just over 110 pounds. And I've got to get them up there by myself. So I'm going to build a little harness to haul them aboard. Right now I'm going to straighten out this is 22 feet of 1/4-inch copper tubing, which is going to be my condenser. Straighten it out and lay it on the ground, and then wind it onto this form so that I've got, once I unfold the winds, I'll have a perfect S-serpentine for the back of the refrigerator. So that's where I'm at. Yeah, enjoy the survey. I hope it's informative. I hope this video will give a feel for what was happening. That's true of all of the videos, at least these early ones. I'll try to narrate where it makes sense, but a lot of this is just seeing through the eyes of the camera what you can expect.
We're getting ready to haul.
After Joe the surveyor met us at the mooring, we pulled into the traveling lift fingers, and the yard crew swarmed all over the boat assessing what needed to be done to lift her out of the water. they decided that the forestay had to come off. The lift frame would have to just be too close to the mast. So we worked together to loosen the backstays and get a halyard down to support the mast, and then get the forestay disconnected and lashed to a shroud. Once that was done, they would bring in the traveling lift. But since the traveling lift moved so slowly and it was going to take time, Joe and I went back aboard to use the time. He went through the interior systems carefully, assessing their condition and pointing out repairs that I would have to make for her to be seaworthy. So we started off in the engine. I know about the exhaust elbow. It definitely needs to be replaced, but the water pump has got corrosion there on that.
There's some cracks that have been fixed with epoxy, it looks like. I would put a new water pump on her. He said he had it rebuilt.
Okay.
But
the main seacock down there is...
It's got a plastic through-hull. The valve is froze up. All those hose clamps are gone. That'll sink the boat.
Yeah.
Sitting at the dock. Your isolators are pretty much rusted out. Your mounts right here just need to be OSFO'd, cleaned, wire brushed, and painted. Okay. They're still okay. It's mostly surface rust.
And you said it's a really nice, expensive steering system?
Well, it's more like what Rybovich used on all their really good sportfish boats. Sounds like they're getting ready to haul.
Yeah, the crane's down here.
Okay.
Running the slings under. It turns out that the haul-out process isn't fast. We'd arrived at 7:30 in the morning, and it was by now past 10 o'clock. After another long wait, as everything moved very, very slowly, and after a diver verified the strap placement, they slowly lifted the boat out of the water and then rolled it again slowly up the platform. We waited. Once they had the boat in the work area, I paid them to pressure wash the hull. Joe needed access to the surface of the hull in order to assess the condition of the fiberglass. And by pressure washing, they removed the sea growth. Once that was done, Joe went to work. He began tapping on the hull. He just used a plastic handle of a screwdriver. Could have used a hammer or something more sophisticated. But the objective was to find spots that didn't have a nice clean snap to them when they were tapped on. These spots indicated locations in which the fiberglass had separated due to osmosis of seawater into the polyester resin in the fiberglass. How big is it? About 3 inches long? Or does it keep it?
About right here.
Okay.
It's normal for this age boat.
Okay.
It's all in just inside the gel coat.
Yeah.
That can be dremeled out, filled with epoxy.
While she was out of the water, he also examined the rest of the components of the boat. The propeller shaft, the bearing, the propeller, the rudder, the keel, so that he could give me a report on the condition of every item that could be inspected on the boat. Unfortunately, life always seems to happen when I don't have a camera in my hand. We put her back in the water and put the rigging back together. Joe agreed to come to the anchorage in the morning and give me a complete verbal report. The official one would take some time to prepare, and he'd email it when it was ready. I paid everybody, and Elliot and I sailed her the 2 or so hours back to the anchorage in Bocas. It was near dark when we got there, and Elliot offered to sleep ashore and let me spend the night on her and consider everything. In the morning, I was waiting for Joe to show up, and I noticed a seacock in the forward head I hadn't seen before. It was the sink drain, and had been behind the door. The valve seemed to be in a little better condition than the others. At least the handle hadn't corroded completely off. Still, I was nervous of what could obviously go wrong. I reached down with one finger and wiggled the handle. It didn't move. I used 2 fingers and lightly pulled on it. The unthinkable, of course, happened. The valve came off and fell. I didn't catch it because I didn't even have a hold of it with enough force to keep it from falling. The through-hull fitting had snapped off at the hull, and seawater instantly began gushing into the boat. I put my foot over it and staunched the link some, as it was not a clean break. I stood there for some time thinking what to do, like the boy with his finger in the dike. There was no help coming until either Joe or Elliot arrived in perhaps an hour or more. I had no tools, or at least didn't know where there were any, or materials to work with. Finally, I realized I had toilet paper within reach. I started rolling up wads and stuffing it into the remainder of the fitting. Miraculously, I managed to get the leak almost completely stopped. About 20 minutes later, Joe showed up, but there was really nothing he could do to immediately help me. So We sat down and he gave me his survey report as the boat, barring a solution, was about to sink. So I got the exhaust elbow, the water pump, and the hoses, and the strainer.
And the strainer. Life raft. Have you found a life raft yet? I didn't see one.
No.
With a boat this old, I would invest in a good
life raft.
The other thing that I didn't get to were the life jackets. I'll put a notation with all systems safety equipment and all systems in working order on this list on this. The values at 35 plus. As we were finishing, Elliot and his girlfriend motored up in the dinghy. I really wasn't looking forward to telling Elliot he'd left me in charge and now his boat was sinking. Once I'd told him, Joe left, and Elliot got in the water with a plug and a hammer and set about putting the plug in the fitting from the outside. Broke off a Thru-Hull fitting.
Water coming in?
Yes! No! It's about like a little more than it was before. You want the hammer? There you go. I'll head back inside. It's dry.
Good?
Yeah, I think so. Let me mop it up and see if it stays dry. That's good. Seems kind of lame to be videoing this with such an emergency going on. He's screwing up that badly. Before Joe left, he told us that there was a flea market that they held about every 2.5 months at the Bocas Marina. It just happened to be today, but it ended at noon, so we had to get it in gear at this point. We all three jumped in the dinghy so we could drop Emma off so she could go home, and Elliot and I could head for the marina and try and find a replacement Thru-Hull fitting. We arrived at the marina about a half an hour before the flea market ended. Miraculously, one of the yacht owners at the flea market had a Thru-Hull fitting, so we bought it and headed back to the boat, hoping that it was the right size. Fitting. First question is it the right size? And it definitely looks similar. Oh, I think that's all spread out. Yeah, I think so. It looks right.
Cool.
Exactly right, so...
Alright, now what do you need?
Now we need to get that one detached, which is maybe another problem. Maybe another trip into town, I don't know. The nut is eroded away. There's no real way to run a hole saw in there and mill it out. Oh.
We're going to need to break the rest of that off, right?
Yeah, we got to get it not just broken off, but
twist it loose.
Clean all. It's never going to twist loose. We're going to have to grind off pieces in order to clear the hole, so we can push it out of the fiberglass.
So chisel?
It'd probably break the fiberglass. I don't know. Let me go look at it on the outside. Working off it with the tools I got on hand. This was in one of the storage shelves. Dig the 5200 out of there away from the nut. That's all we got. This old wood chisel's probably strong enough to go through that brass nut when the time comes. Ah, there we go. There we go. It's just having it be below the water line. It's only the water line's is about right there. So yeah, maybe up here. It's just barely underwater. We could maybe do something to heel the boat over even while we work. Got the glue out of the way and I can see that there is a nut. The nut is fairly sound. Might be bad news, I don't know. That's the plan. I'm trying to get my calories in me because once we get started on this, there's no stopping or we sink the boat. The fitting that we bought matches this. It looks like it's an identical fitting. So Elliot's taking it over to his buddy's boat to see if he can find a socket or something that will reach down in there and get on that fitting. I think best case, it's never going to move on the threads. Hopefully we'll get something and try and twist it, and the whole fitting will, or the whole through-hull will just shear off right there at the hull, in which case the outer bezel will be free and we can go pop it off the outside of the hull and clean it up. Of course, this is all done underwater with it leaking in and fighting, keeping the hull plugged in the meantime. Alternatively, like if it spins or something, if the glue on the outside spins, well then I can probably take that wood chisel and just collapse the fitting from the inside, collapse it away from the nut, and free up the nut. The metallurgy on the nut, ironically, looks great. Wish I would have got busting that fitting out on video. I basically started chiseling away at the fitting on the inside of the nut. I got about a couple of little divots out of it, and the nut split and broke. And as soon as it did that, I knew I had it. And then I gave the end of the fitting a rap with the hammer, and it broke loose and punched out perfect. Nothing left but glue. You good? Okay. Oh, that didn't work. Big leak.
There we go.
Okay.
Really good now?
Nope, not now. So,
Ready to put it back?
while you're holding your finger in the dike, I came up to tell you I'm buying the boat.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's the right boat at the right time.
Perfect.
So I'm going to kind of micromanage some of this a little bit more than I would otherwise. I want to come down and play with the file for a minute and
Whatever you want.
check the surface. All right.
One of his first days of many laying on his side all wet and salty.
Boat life. My worries about Elliot's filing job on the hull were unfounded. He'd done an excellent job. So it was a straightforward job to coat the through-hull fitting in sealant. I just coated the flange of the through-hull and up about a half an inch on the thread with a liberal bead, and Elliot did the honors of poking it in the hole while I caught it in the head and screwed the nut into place, and the through-hull was installed. Unfortunately, the problem was still not solved because the seacock was, in spite of its external appearance, undoubtedly just as corroded as the rest of the fitting had been, so I opted not to reuse it. So we put a wooden plug in the hull to seal it without damaging the new through-hull, and went ashore again and bought a pipe cap and just capped it off. I felt like it wasn't important enough to use that sink to go to the trouble of finding a high-quality seacock here in Panama. Once that was done, the repair was finished. All we had left to do was celebrate the sale of the boat. I'm pretty happy with the situation. I did have a few minutes of fear, especially once we got the through-hull repaired and plugged up so everything was safe. We cleaned up the mess, and I sat down and decompressed for about 45 minutes or so before I could really think. And during that time, I was kind of stressed a little bit about, wow, what have I done? Right now, I'm feeling surprisingly good. I pray about this and just get these warm feelings that this is what I need to be doing right now, and I can't figure that out entirely because I thought I would be doing something other than running away, which is really what this is. And I think the good feelings are coming because I just need this time. I need time to heal. I need time to put myself back together and find my voice. And then I think Heavenly Father will have something else He wants me to do. So I probably ought to kill it. Go to bed, but that's where I'm at. My boat. My boat. My boat. At least in philosophy until we sign the papers.